Feel the flow of life. Chapter 1. The free flow of life. Want to feel the flow? Enlightenment is to know how to stay inspired day after day no matter what, to culture a sense of divine inspiration within yourself where you feel good and are enjoying your ride of life most of the time. I'm talking about doing whatever it is you love to do that turns your crank, inspires you, blows your load spiritually, aesthetically, sensually, intimately almost every day. You do it for yourself because you're honoring the life force your God gave you. My standard in life is nobody else's. I am an original human being with my own lifestyle. I follow my own life path. I don't compare myself to others because I'm supposed to be a unique creation of God following my own destiny. I generally don't poke my nose in the lives of others unless they're friends, family, or cohorts in some venture. Nothing good comes out of being a busybody, wondering what the other guy is doing, comparing yourself to him or competing with him. My God gave me my own life to deal with and honor. I'll focus on that and leave it there. It's my solitary ride, so I'll ride it to the best of my ability, my way, talking to the God inside of me for guidance, the divine spark the Holy Spirit endowed me with. I don't like to compete with others because it's all systematic, artificial, phony, stupid, useless, macho, ego, superiority, elitist crap to me. It doesn't mean anything next to my own standard inside of me. It's the source of a lot of negative energy in the world. Many of us know it even though we play along with the delusion that competition in the name of sport, character building, or capitalism is a good thing. What it actually does is alienate people from each other and creates little islands of ego running around trying to appear superior to each other. It's all a wash to me. The only one you have to prove anything to is yourself, or the inner standard, the sense of dignity, your God endowed you with. So what if you think you're superior to someone else in something, or they to you? You live alone inside your head. Nobody else gives that much of a damn about you, regardless of whether they think that you think you're superior to them or they think they're superior to you. They're not spending their days thinking about you. They're not living their lives inside your head, but if they see that you give a damn about what they might think of you, they'll play you, butter you up when they want something, or make you feel insecure and guilty with a few negative comments when they want, and if you're the sucker who falls for it, you're in good company. Most people don't really know their true essences as human beings and are at the mercy of the opinions and feedback from the people around them. Very few are enlightened free spirits, stable within themselves, beyond the petty rantings or supposed constructive criticisms of others. Enlightened free spirits know their identities and live by them, and that's it. There is no uncertainty there. You figure out who you are, it becomes your standard, and you live by it for the rest of your life. The artificial roles we play are not who we really are. If you can imagine that you have the same genetic seed and pure raw energy as some naked Aboriginal native sitting in his hut looking up at the sky wondering about his life 10,000 years ago. Who we really are is a primal, carnal, hedonistic, divine, spiritual, noble mix that was there already, formed like a blueprint for life when we were born as individual human beings. When you live in the box of the system and think you're free because you choose your major in college, choose a certain occupation, choose what brand of car you drive or where you live, this isn't really freedom because you're choosing from among the options set up for you by the system. You haven't taken the journey to get away from all that stuff, at least for a little while, to discover who you are as a pure entity, away from capitalist pop culture bliss, away from the schedule of the 7-day work week, the X number of job options the system offers you to live like Jack Kerouac did in the 50s, on the road, when he said forget about the ambitions he was indoctrinated by to follow his own path away from all that stuff. He would cut out, so to speak, do the things he wanted to do to enjoy his life while exploring it, and seek to earn his keep by doing something worthy from his inner wisdom and store of experiences that naturally inspired him and helped other people somehow. In his case, he became the icon of the beatnik generation, the mainstream symbol of the people who didn't feel right conforming to the standard lifestyle of the 1950s and wanted to live free lives true to themselves, the forerunner of the 60s hippies and nowadays enlightened free spirits who say screw it all, I'll respect other people, but the driving force of my life is to honor the genetic seed my God endowed me with, to be true to myself. Along with Kerouac, the other major pioneer of the movement that was dissatisfied with the agenda of the system was Sloan Wilson, who worked at a corporation until a rival beat him to the job of holding his boss's hat. It was then he realized he had enough of this stupid lifestyle, quit his job, got a divorce, moved onto a sailboat where he wrote the novel The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, which later became a movie starring Gregory Peck as the Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, a conformist who hated his conformist life. Flannel Suit showcased the emptiness of capitalism, conformity, and consumerism, with people living for nothing except to work to get money to buy useless things, mostly for status' sake, that they would barely use. It was the pioneering book for the modern-day concept of the rat race. And then after him it was Ken Kesey who started getting in the drug scene in the early 60s. It's like Buggar Vance said in the novel and movie The Legend of Buggar Vance, you gotta get away from all the clutter and hacking in the world to find the flow in your soul. He said, what I'm talking about is a game that can't be won, only played. This is so profound that it goes over the heads of most of us. The concept of competition and winning is an illusion borrowed from the world. When you let go of all that ego and pretense and focus on life as lived in the moment for its own sake without ulterior motives, you've won the most important game of all, the game to live the best life you can for yourself. Do what you were meant to do with your life. Get away from the noise of the world that's been brainwashing you all your life and keeping you down. Find what you do best, live by it, and love the process. You're born with a certain essence, your soul, your primal divine spark. It was there either at conception or birth, created by either your God, mortal extraterrestrials who genetically created the human race, or nature. It doesn't matter which, the fact is that it's there. It's your life force, your individual spark of purity, the most primal and divine thing you own. All the dogma and psychobabble in the world can't touch this as the simple key to life. This is who you are, your true nature. This is all you really own, and if you can get through your life first discovering what this essence is, then honoring it all the way through, you'll have achieved what very few people do, because they've been brainwashed by the world. Be the same person you were in mind and spirit at birth as you are when you die, and have spent your entire lifetime purging all this natural potential energy you feel inside of you as intensely and sensually as you could. Because you really, really enjoyed the process of living out this individual essence that is you. It reminds me of that line from the Blood, Sweat, and Tears song, all I ask of living is that it has no change on me. Most people get sucked in by the world in some way such that they lose a piece of their true natural essences or never even discover it in the first place. Oftentimes, this brainwashing is ever so subtle, like the frog in a pot of warm water not realizing he's slowly being boiled to death. The important thing is to know that those intuitive feelings from your subconscious mind and some mystical place beyond it are what constitute your soul. I believe that we're born with some things all set up inside of us, your blueprint for life, your primal divine soul that will manifest itself when you reach maturity if you let it, namely, a conscience about what is right and wrong, good and bad. An intuition about how to live a good, natural life true to ourselves. A connection to our divine spark, God, which gives us the inspiration to try to reach for the higher limits of the human condition. A passionate, lusty side that seeks hedonism and pleasure. This sensual quality has been demonized by modern-day society, which wants repressed conformist workers hooked on innocuous material things and low-level pop culture thrills, but in actual fact, the pursuit of higher states of sensations and consciousness is a high virtue and the path to freedom, as long as you don't infringe on the lives of people who don't want to partake in your sensual aesthetic pursuits with you. This is who we really are, and the mission for enlightened free spirits is to live by it as your top priority, to culture this primal divine spark and listen to what it tells you to do every single day for the rest of your life. Everything else is minor comfort or delusion next to the song in your soul, which is the most primal divine thing inside of you, whatever it might be, wherever it might come from. Enlightened people don't let the system define for them how they should live, because we already have it inside of us. It was our birthright from our Creator for those of us aware enough to listen to ourselves over and above the other people and organizational systems of the planet, including that of organized religion. The only rule is that your rights stop where other people's rights start. Whatever consenting adults do together in discrete settings is fine. If a political nation makes laws that have no objective moral value, we all know by our inherent consciences what's morally right and wrong, that is, your adherence or non-adherence to them affects nobody but yourself and consenting cohorts, such as with seatbelt laws, smoking laws, helmet laws, recreational substance laws, or laws against sex workers. I try to ignore them because as a free being in the universe, I have the inalienable right to do with as I please with my life as long as I don't cross the line into infringing on other people's rights. This is what true freedom is. Riding the tracks of my life. There is a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better or worse as his portion. It is the harder because you will always find those who think they know what is your duty better than you know it. It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion, it is easy in solitude to live after our own, but the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Self-Reliance. The most important questions of life are: what did you contribute to the spirit of life with your life? How much of your inherent natural inspired potential did you use up? Put loosely, there are three major facets of happiness. Whatever it takes to keep you inspired, soulful pursuits. The search for pleasure, hedonistic pursuits. A few close relationships to share the warmth of the intimate experience, emotional connections, help each other and feel like you're connected to other living entities here and there as opposed to being a total solitary being stuck in your head. A fine balance of living these three types of experience to a reasonable max most of the time is the key to a great life according to the free spirit ideology. The goal is to strive for transcendence in these areas. First off, we're all born alone, we'll live alone, we'll die alone. We can feel others, and even though some of them might feel for us, most will never know who you really are, just like you'll never know what anyone else is really thinking even if you're in a great loving relationship with them. There will never be a utopian brotherhood of humanity because at our cores, we're guided by self-preservation and self-interest, and our society is based on competition and capitalism, which promotes egotism, vanity, power, and control over others, a hierarchy of social economic classes and self-centeredness. So accept the world as is, be a shining beacon of light, beauty, inspiration, and love in your own way, and enjoy your life in the process. As far as the power of analogy goes, I've come to see my life like a train heading one way down a dead-end cliff. I pass other trains here and there, I stop at the station sometimes for lube jobs, breaks, tune UPS, overhauls and conversations with other trains. Sometimes another train hitches onto me and we travel together for a while. Sometimes 3 or 4 trains hitch onto me and we have great times as we soar down the hills together, all our combined weight making for a powerful ride, but invariably, I can't get too close to them for too long because they all got their own agendas different from mine, and besides, they drain my engine and slow me down because I need to be light and free to get to where I want to go with this life, to fulfill my so-called destiny and ride the train in good form for as long as I can. My experiments that I still have left to do are trying to uncover those mystical areas in my mind, if they exist at all, and attempt to reach transient states of perfect feelings. These are largely solitary endeavors that I have no choice but to pursue vigilantly in order to fulfill the blueprint that was inside of me when I was born. I can't help feeling like Aldous Huxley, Carl Jung, Terence McKenna, Ken Kesey, John C. Lilly, Timothy Leary, or any of the other life explorers out there who realized that the final frontier is something hidden deep in our subconscious minds or beyond it, which may be a link to who we really are, where we really came from, and any divine force that may live inside of us. I have to ride the tracks by myself in order to keep a proper perspective as to what's important in my life, living it naturally by my own speed, following what I feel from within myself, not connecting with other trains as a crutch or a burden which will ultimately drag me down from doing what I feel I must. It would be great if I could find other trains who felt the same way I do, but ultimately I only go so far with most, then they go off into their own fantasies and I go off into my fantasy to touch my divine spark by going through a barrier hidden away somewhere deep in my subconscious mind and hopefully somehow reach a reassuring sense of immortality through it, answering the question as to whether I'm part of some greater soul that has a good reason for this, why we are human souls who are here, living our lives as we do right now on planet Earth. Ultimately, my destiny is to ride that train trying to unlock the secret to human immortality inside of me, if it exists, mostly by experimenting with mind-altering substances and doing other activities that will help me alter my consciousness into a more profound, deeper level, such as meditation, wearing my resistance down in a variety of ways and other interesting possibilities I come across. When my block of finite time runs out, I'll go off the cliff in peace, having done what I could to answer my only eternal question. So the bottom line is that it's all about the unending quest for deeper experiences for me as a sample size of one in the human experiment of my life, and that's it. Think of it as my quest to live out my fountain of youth by running with it for as long as I can. I'm not bound by anything on the planet, no conventions, no rules. I live by my rules. I don't take anything too seriously. I just know the game is to keep moving on with my paradigm of inspiration, good times, fun, sex, love and hedonism, to keep that bright, young sparkly feeling within for as long as I can. Then when I get near the end, I'll know that I will have done it, to have lived the greatest life I could have lived by cherishing and appreciating every day, especially these days now while I'm still young, at the old age of youth, and it seems as though there will be endless days ahead, but that's what an enlightened free spirit is. He knows the days aren't endless. He'll get old and lose some vitality, then his greatest wish will be for more time, which is impossible, which is why I'm wise enough to cherish my life now, because I've already thought out the game and know what's real, which is what the art of free spiritism is all about, which is my only purpose in this book, to maybe wake somebody up so you don't end up going through what my old buddy Bob did, working his ass off all his life to earn himself a mansion with a big swimming pool, which didn't really matter to him after he got prostate cancer, but it took the cancer diagnosis for him to realize that. Up until then, his life consisted of never having enough material success nor enough status of career success, so he kept pushing, never stopping to enjoy his life, and then he stopped it all when he got cancer, tried to beat it by doing the conventional treatments and the alternative ones too, the positive mental attitude, the visualization, the supplements, the laughing therapy, pioneered by Norman Cousins, the yoga, the physical exercise, which is where I met him at a gym, and he gave it a good run for about 2 years, but it was too late. I felt sad when he died and never forgot the one great lesson he gave me. I spent all my life working for all this stuff, but would have been twice as happy working half as much and owning a quarter of it. There is nothing superior to your own wisdom inside of you should you take the time to explore it and listen. The precious years of your life will tick on regardless of whether you live a dull brainwashed capitalist life or a free-spirited life, being true to your pure inherent nature. When you get near the end, you'll look back and know what a great life would have been as a young vital person, but by then, it will be too late. Do you seize the moment on a beautiful day to get out in nature and enjoy it like a primitive caveman would, or a kid riding his bike around for a while, carefree away from the tedium of the world? There is another layer of life beyond the conventional, the life of an enlightened free spirit, which is to have the strength to live every day following your true nature despite all the mundanity and illusions that surround you wherever you might be. It might cost you those trendy clothes, that trendy car, cable TV, your hair color, those CDs of manufactured pop stars, that nice apartment for a while, but true courage is to quit that dull job, to take the time to explore your life, to find what fits for you, then parlay it into a means to earn your cash, all the while living by the free spirit's inspiration hedonism paradigm regardless of anything else. Are you a pasty-looking chubby guy or gal wearing a noose, tie, around your neck who looks like you haven't spent a fun, free, vigorous day outdoors since you were 10 years old? Or are you more natural, getting out and enjoying the outdoors most days? The sad thing is that the further away you get from your true natural inspired essence, the harder it is to get back that natural spring in your step should you ever get enlightened enough to realize this is what really matters in life. It's like Walt Disney said, first find something you like to do so much you'd gladly do it for nothing, then learn to do it so well people are happy to pay you for it. Real freedom. So I began to have an idea of my life, not as the slow shaping of achievement to fit my preconceived purposes but as the gradual discovery and growth of a purpose which I did not know. Marion Milner, A Life of One's Own, 1987. The goal of life is to know the truth. To live is to feel oneself lost. He who accepts it has already begun to find himself, to be on firm ground. Søren Kierkegaard. Revere your life, love it all, the joys, the victories, the pains and the struggles. Every day is the best day of your life because you've got another chance to live. Someday you won't get that chance anymore. One of the first laws of free spiritism is to not listen to anyone but yourself, which is harder than you might think because you've been exposed to so much indoctrination from out there that never ends if you plug into the world system in any way at all. So I'll continue on with the same message. Nothing is superior to your own thoughts and insights to formulate your life for yourself without being bound by all this fake knowledge out there masquerading as the truth because some clone in the system borrowed it from some earlier clone in the system while all the other clones legitimized it by supporting it, thus keeping them all together in the collective lie of phony knowledge that they make their living from. And if anyone disagrees, like the kid in the fairy tale The Emperor's New Clothes, they try to brand him a nutcase and dismiss him as a flake. Ask yourself at any given moment if you think you're living the greatest life you can, doing what you want, living with some intensity for something that turns you on. The means are all different but the lifestyles are all the same, people forging ahead with their lives to create them through vital living as they go along by doing what they want in their own particular way. Nobody original starts out with the certainty that they'll fulfill their destinies and become successful by society's standards, but they do it anyway without regard for the possible consequences. The main point of this book is that you're born with a soul already preformed, which is your essence, the most divine thing you own that your God gave you if he exists. The extent to which you bring this inner force to the surface of your life to expunge this natural energy will determine your level of inspiration, happiness, and vitality in life. In order to win at life, you must constantly intensely release your natural energy and emotions. This inner potential never changes through your entire life, even though it could get covered over and buried if you follow things that are not inherent to your true nature. It's like Stephen Dedalus says in James Joyce's Ulysses after his awakening as an artist, different now and yet the same. Life is really about an awakening to find your real self that was there when you were born. The more you neglect it and don't release your natural inspired energy, the more empty, depressed, and unfulfilled you'll feel. You may not know why, if you're so successful in the capitalist world, have a family, a home, and go to church on Sunday as your religion wants, you still feel as though you're not really happy within yourself. This is why, because you've covered yourself over with illusions from the world while ignoring the only thing that really matters, the inspired power in your soul. Think of it as your song flowing naturally as opposed to taking a bunch of disparate courses at school to reach some illusory standard set by someone other than you, reading a self-help book that tells you to follow its X number of steps to be successful, then work at some career to reach some illusory level of success that has very little to do with the person you naturally felt like when you were a 5-year-old kid doing what you wanted to. This indoctrination to meet someone else's standard of normality or competence is the source of a lot of neurosis and anger in the world, because many people deny their true identities, often without even realizing it on a conscious level. A lot of people are sad, frustrated and angry but don't understand that on some level, it's because they didn't do what they really wanted to in life and they're still not doing anything about it to try to make it real. They're stuck in some lifestyle they created for themselves that they don't really feel strongly about as intrinsic to them but fear facing their lives as they really are, so they just go on living these alright, comfortable mundane lives that ultimately equal nothing, because by my definition of a great life, if I can't be who I am, trying for some intense inspiration and hedonism somehow, life has no meaning to me regardless of how big my bank account is or how many people I think love me. I have a thick layer of strength inside, an insular Tahiti of sorts, that houses my soul, my highest vision of aesthetic beauty. Once you find this essence that's the pure you, all the things in the world that might influence a lesser person can't touch you because you've got your identity, you know who you are, what you must do to constantly release your natural inspired energy for the rest of your life, and everything else moves into the realm of minor entertainment or trivial distraction. I can break bread with all manner of people, laugh with them and be sociable, but my pact with life is to live for the spirit of it, and this is where my strongest allegiance lies, to follow my soul, live for the transient experience of the moment, which is my pure agenda, to be healthy, strong, wise, creative, and free, live a long life. Then when it's my time to walk into the ether forevermore, I'll do it with no qualms whatsoever, because I'll have walked my walk, lived my life purely without getting taken in by that soppy, lame corporate pop culture world out there that has polluted just about everybody I come across. I won't be too critical of it because it has given me such things as laser surgery to correct my eyes, a bunch of meaningless entertainment I can engage in from time to time to get the distraction I need at that moment in time, and access to the entire spectrum of material goods at inexpensive prices. The creation of just about all great products and services have come about in the quest for profits, which is a great motivator. If you can align your natural interests with doing something like this to help humanity, that's a great way to live. Something like an Edison or a Tesla, natural tinkerers more interested in the process for their own personal inspiration rather than the fortunes they made. I don't blame the system per se because it has given us a materially prosperous society, but at the same time, it encourages a materialistic ideology that a lot of people buy into at the expense of any natural inspired energy they might have been born with to live original lives. But it's not the system's fault, because we all have brains capable of figuring it out for ourselves and free choice to do what we want, even though most of us won't exercise these options over the course of our lifetime. Runs. You're a willing volunteer, the catalyst that allowed the system to permeate your mind and take you over, such that now you live a dull, mundane life, deluding yourself into thinking that you're a pretty successful, cool, trendy person as defined by the system, when in reality, you're a lost soul divorced from your true nature. Most people start to get cut off from their true natures at about the age of 5 when they go to school, such that by the age of 18, they're willing volunteers to the boring, dull, mundane capitalist deal of life, when their true natures could be worlds away from this. But the system has done a good job of brainwashing them to suit its needs of docile conformist, worker clones fooled into thinking the standard formula of the establishment is the path to happiness. Some will see through it, keep their true identities, and escape the rat race to do whatever it takes to keep themselves inspired and chasing pleasure day after day to live pretty good, free lives. But most won't. They'll live a life defined for them by the society they live in, and what's worse, they'll be so brainwashed that they'll think they're doing pretty damn good, all the while their souls are slowly suffocating. If society offers X number of options in various things like career opportunities, TV channels, and the various activities of life, most people think they're free because they get to pick from among these options defined for them by the system. But what if you don't like any of them? It's like Pink Floyd in one of their songs from The Wall in the early 1980s, so what if you got 100 channels to choose from on TV when they're all crap? Real freedom is the individual who can see past all this enough to step out of the box, create their own options, and not buy into the options presented just because that's the system's way of doing things. An enlightened free spirit won't change his spots even if everybody's telling him what to do, like get a conventional job and settle down, so to speak, or some supposed mental health expert tells him he's got some kind of borderline personality disorder, nonconformity, no interest in fitting into mainstream society, and he has to change somehow. Who do you listen to, the push of cultural pressures or to yourself? That hypothetical question should have an easy answer, but the truth is that if most people were to examine themselves honestly, they'd see that they got the wrong answer. Once you've got enough money to cover the basics of comfort, why waste your life pursuing more money, material things, and any other illusions society offers you just for their own sake? Spend your time doing the things that inspire you and give you pleasure, and you'll end up living a greater life than almost everybody else on the planet, most of whom have sacrificed their lives for the illusions of the world, many of them without even realizing it. Sustained release of natural inspired energy. See how far you can go with your ride of the human condition. For me, there is only traveling on the paths that have heart, and the only worthwhile challenge for me is to traverse its full length, looking breathlessly. Carlos Castaneda. Live your dreams awake. Impressionism is to the art world what free spiritism is to life. Up until the Impressionists of the 1800s like Claude Monet, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas, and Auguste Renoir, art followed a formula and a set path, but the Impressionists chose to paint what they saw and felt, even though it led to hardship in their lives, because they broke from the pack to be themselves. There's no difference in a free spirit's life regardless of the medium through which we choose to live. Every year in Hawaii, they run a race called the Ironman Triathlon. It's not really a race, it's an endurance test where people challenge themselves to finish a very grueling event over the course of the day: 2.4-mile swim, 110-mile bike ride, 26.2-mile run. They're inspired, psyched up, feeling good, well-trained, brave, tough, and ready, doing something they feel deeply inherent about within themselves. When they do it and conquer themselves for that day, they feel transcendent and great, kinda like walking on air, boundless for that instant of time. You're being you, your best, unleashing the true primal energy within, doing what you were created for. If you could bottle up this feeling and live it every day for the rest of your life, you would indeed drink from the cup of the universal enlightened master. This is the life of the pure free spirit who knows that happiness and peace only comes by holding on to that inspiration and youthful spark regardless of anything in the outside world. The regular day unfolds in a mundane fashion unless you have an inspired mind to live above it all and chase inspired action all the time to capture those moments of transcendence and bliss. Some people need to run fast. Some need to paint, play music, create something, or write their thoughts down to release the angst inside. Still others have to go out and connect with people somehow, like the politician trying to get elected, the activist with a cause, or the benevolent soul helping somebody. These are all examples of living inspired through soulful pursuits. Unless you have something at least mildly intense like this to fight for, an inner standard to keep you young beyond just a regular job that pays your bills, life has no real meaning. There's a fine line between inspiration and burnout, or at the other extreme, the generic couch potato lifestyle of trivial pursuits and nothingness. A wise life is to develop the ability to ride your natural inspiration to a certain point of intense effort, then back off and rest before you reach that point of overexertion, fatigue and stress. Finding this balance is the process of living life as an art form, a beautiful, relaxed eternal mix of inspiration, peace, love, and hedonism. Enlightenment is to know you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control the negative and the tragic through an inner base of nobility within, and proceed softly, taking it all in stride. Nothing outside of yourself will change you much. When you're old, your mind will still be the same consciousness it is now. If you can culture it and keep your body well, you can keep this stream of consciousness in an enjoyable, inspired, peaceful, positive flow most of the time. Release your natural energy. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action, and because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost, the world will not have it. Martha Graham. People who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, they create them. George Bernard Shaw. I'm real enough to know that despite outer appearances, there's a lot of anger, envy, frustration, hate and insecurity out there. The true motives of most people in most situations is virtually always self-interest in one way or another, which is fair enough because it's the true nature of the beast. Just don't cross the line into other people's space to get what you want. There's enough for everybody if we were all just a little more calm about it and not so quick to exploit others for our own gain. I could care less about my so-called legacy or epitaph, because when you're dead, you're dead. If you live by the illusion that people will remember you or want people to remember you, don't kid yourself, they won't. Life moves too quickly for people to reminisce much about anybody who's gone except for Jesus Christ, but he was a fluke. He had help from the Great One on high. You're no more special than past pop stars or the last few heads of state who are now virtually forgotten, so why delude yourself into thinking people will remember you when they can't even remember these other supposedly fantastic people? It's not a healthy thing to do anyway, so don't waste your time trying to develop some kind of reputation for yourself because you want them to have a nice, noble eulogy for you and spend their idle moments thinking about you after you're gone. It doesn't matter. When you're dead, you're either in another dimension or sleeping in the ground as a mortal being. Enlightened free spirits as a group are distinct from ordinary free spirits who could be anyone going through life doing what they want freely without a real focus of what's in their souls, what they were naturally meant to do with their lives by virtue of the essence they were born with. They could be just simply fun, irresponsible, immature people out for a good time, or lazy people who don't want to do much of anything, whereas an enlightened free spirit knows his or her identity as profoundly as they can through a lifetime of contemplation and action. Their pseudo-religion or life force is to honor this essence no matter what, regardless of everything else in the outside world, even the rejection of the conventional ideals of monogamous relationships and family values if that's the way they feel. You can't love others greatly unless you've got a good sense of inner harmony first. This is one of the great illusions of the Western world. Seek out romantic love to fulfill the emptiness within, even if you don't have any real semblance of inspired wisdom and a stable identity within you. The institution of marriage in the conventional sense is good for the system because it locks you into a lifestyle of work, responsibility, consumption, and debt as you buy a house and take care of your family, even though you barely took the time to live out the adventure that's supposed to be your life, to explore your essential self first. Other people won't make you happy until you can make yourself happy by discovering your true identity and living by it, so until then, think twice about making a legal contract to live exclusively with one other person for the rest of your life. All anyone ever really owns in life is their inner spark, and if you ever get lazy and lose it or never had it in the first place, your life will be a drab, mundane, depressing, empty experience. I was brought up by a freewheeling father to believe that life was meant to be lived as a ride of experience, not managed like all those cornball phony experts currently in vogue with their stupid, boring life strategies, habits of highly effective people, or steps to mastery. Has society become that anal retentive, one of Freud's psychosexual stages, that we're reduced to managing our lives like somebody manages a business, or do we live it for the aesthetics of it with some manner of inspired spark and gusto like Zorba the Greek did in trying to teach the young writer about passion? You can purge your energy any way you want. The important thing is to constantly get it out, to free yourself from mundanity and release it from your system through the experience of doing those tough, worthy, interesting things that expend you and make you feel like you're doing what you were created to do with all the intensity of a thoroughbred racehorse. If you don't, this energy will stay inside of you in the form of unused potential and destroy you from the inside for not living out the true person you were meant to be when your God created you and imprinted a blueprint on your soul for your life when you were born. The rule for general well-being is to use up this energy. It doesn't really matter what the means are, the important thing is to release it all the time as your unique particular ride of life. If you don't, you'll just be another dull consumer, working some job you have no real love for, watching all that one-dimensional stuff on mainstream TV at night, then try to give yourself a thrill by spending your money on doing the system's version of fun things, go to a movie, amusement parks, shopping malls, play video games, buy tasty junk food, etc., which are all pretty well dull things to me, although I still engage in a few from time to time for the novelty effect. Most of the emptiness any human being feels is the emptiness of not living by his or her true nature. Some emptiness is the result of not having the intimate soulmate, kindred spirit love you want from a lover and the rest of humanity in general, but based on my own experience, if I live by my true identity, I feel strongly inspired regardless of anything else, even if I'm not getting a good dose of intimate connections lately, but intimate connections are generally easy. Most people are so starved for love and attention that there's a virtual endless supply of companionship out there, especially with the social aspects of the internet and the availability of furry pets. Chapter 2. I wanna be pure, free and strong. General Foundation. When you're feeling down and out, all the philosophy and idealism goes out the window. It's just a straight struggle, what you feel in your gut at the time. Buddhist principles or all that flowery, psychobabble talk about the soul just don't cut it then. It comes down to whether you're winning or losing, and in this society, that often equates to how much money you have, and money is freedom, so it really is the elixir to a great life. If you ain't got it, you know only too well how valuable it is, and if you got it and don't respect it, you're a fool. It always comes down to a few basic things: accept yourself, go easy on yourself, tread lightly, have your pity party, then crawl out of it, get your inspiration back, fuel your mind, take action to develop yourself somehow. You have to have your own standard. Don't look at other people in a comparative way. You don't know what others are really thinking or going through. Most of us are in our middle-class self-centered sheltered ruts, not realizing that a few miles away, families with kids are living through extreme poverty. You might be thinking that you're the only one on the planet getting the crappy end of the stick, but if you were to talk to the people around you in a meaningful way at all, you will soon see that just about all of them have got some kind of anthill in their way, like money problems, poor health, bad marriage, rebellious kids, addictions, etc. If you ever feel bad, volunteer at a hospice or a children's hospital for a day, then you will see reality crystal clear. Stay cool. Don't think your lot is that bad. Be happy with your life right now. The best things are really free, namely the free time to enjoy the outdoors on a beautiful day without feeling any pain. Don't get cynical if everybody around you appears cynical, generic, mundane, and downtrodden. Be a light within yourself. Draw satisfaction from your efforts and humbly continue to pursue them. I've been up and I've been down. There's no doubt that I'm a much happier person when I'm active and doing something rather than sitting around brooding, watching the world self-destruct on the boob tube. Resting is different from brooding. There's a fine line between resting and sitting around long enough to fall into a brooding rut. You have to learn how to ride the line in order to get the most out of life. Rest enough to feel good, but not long enough to get lazy and apathetic. It's all a matter of attitude/willpower/frame of mind that can give you the ability and momentum to take constant action towards whatever it is you want out of life. Or if you don't want anything, it's perfectly alright to be content with who you are right now. Don't be critical of yourself. Accept yourself for who you are. If you fail at something or achieve great success, so what? Keep moving with constant inspired action. Don't stop to put yourself down or rest on your laurels for too long. Life is meant to be joy and peace, not necessarily working towards something all the time, so we must not become so focused on achieving things that we lose sight of the simple things that really bring us the most pleasures, like inspired aesthetic action as opposed to inspired ambitious action, peace of mind, love, sharing time together, having fun, and the enjoyment of nature. We all know what we have to do. The issue for most of us is to simply get up off our butts, make an intelligent plan and pursue it diligently. The trick to anything is consistency. Almost everybody fades away with the mundanity of day-to-day life as the seasons pass. We see others around us watching TV and eating junk food, so we get weak and tired and maybe slip a little on our visions of aesthetic beauty, and before we know it, we're back in our old ruts, comfortably numb just like everybody else. If you shut off the tube and did interesting things, you'd be amazed at how much you could accomplish. Take care of yourself because no one else will. Take care of your body as you go along. That's the minimum you have to do to get through life relatively happy. We all either knock ourselves out working for the man, raising kids, or just doing nothing in particular, living in dead space, but the only thing that ultimately matters is if we go the distance and finish the race. This takes action and activity on a regular basis, a bit of exercise, fresh air, nature, a good diet, relaxation, and peace of mind. It's not enough to watch these things every once in a while. In order to make it to old age relatively happy and healthy, you must actively do the things that will take care of your mental and physical health over the long run. Slow down, realize what's real, and start taking action towards it. You can read all the self-help books in the world and know every psychological theory some blockhead thought up, but none of them will help you near as much as the only true teacher, experience, more commonly called the school of hard knocks, tempered by analysis of it. Many teenagers come out of the blocks hot and fast thinking they know it all but lack experience in life, which, when it eventually comes, turns almost all of them from pinko liberals into redneck conservatives. If you don't want to swim against the current, use your life as learning experiences through which you can better yourself. Don't just experience things and blindly keep going. Stop and analyze them so that you will learn from them. Be content with what you have now. You must always live in the moment. Wipe away the past and the future and just be happy with what's happening in your life right now. Keep it simple. Too many people complicate their lives with all manner of trivial things. More is not necessarily better. Focus only on what really matters and forget about everything else. More money is not necessarily better if it eats into your free time and makes you alienated from your family. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life, you ought to be thankful for being alive, breathing air devoid of the size of your bank account. You ought to be grateful for simple things like food, water, the ability to walk. Every minute, 30 people on the planet starve to death. 1/3 of the planet doesn't get enough food to get by. Many people have serious disabilities. Some people have AIDS and cancer. It's all about attitude. A guy was robbed and was thankful that they didn't kill him and that he wasn't that desperate that he was the robber. Most people would just be angry that they were robbed. Appreciate life. Count your blessings regardless of station, because there are still many people worse off than you on this planet who need your help more than you need your self-pity. Happiness comes from being content with what you got right now. Time and patience will heal anything. Whenever you get all wound up about something, stop, slow down and remember to have patience, give it time to blow over. Willpower, attitude along with intelligent action and passion are everything in life. With these faculties, you can accomplish anything you want. Self-mastery and control are the highest ideals. Most people are happy with a middle ground existence. If you really want something bad enough, you should be able to get it simply because a focused person is the most powerful force in the universe. You are what you think and do. The more you use your willpower, the stronger you get. Keep trying. That's all you can ever do. Simplify your life right now. Go through all your material possessions and get rid of all the stuff you don't use. Eliminate most trivial pursuits and streamline your life into those few main points which you will now focus on all the time in a think-act cycle. Thinking then doing feed on each other. Do both to create an upward victory spiral. The trick is to stay focused, yet many people can't because there are too many hours in the day for them. It's too tough. They need downtime in front of the TV and soon everything fades as they settle into the comfortable pattern of mediocrity again. There are too many distractions. Get rid of them like cable TV if you dare. Make peace with yourself because you're stuck with you and nobody will really like you unless you like yourself. You're the only person responsible for you and all your problems. Keep them to yourself. Don't blame people for anything. Solve your problems yourself. See them as mini assignments and learning experiences. Knowledge is power. Most knowledge comes from self-education, experience and introspection. Self-knowledge to master your soul is the highest order of knowledge. Take what's good in the way of practical knowledge from the world. Detach yourself from all the crap in the world. Enjoy everything. Need nothing. I like Buddhist philosophy because they say if you don't become attached to anything, you can't lose anything, so you don't get all balled up because your stocks fell or your car broke down or something. They're just events that you deal with and possibly learn from. There shouldn't be any emotion there. Just accept it all and realize that there's no such thing as security. All life is uncertain. Be strong enough to realize this and go forward anyway. The detachment rule applies to a book I read about how to be a great salesman. One of the rules was not to let anything affect your emotional state, neither victory nor defeat. Even if you had a great day, don't let it go to your head. Start off the next day humble. Start every day with a clean slate of nothingness. Fear and laziness are the biggest impediments to a successful life. Life means change and uncertainty. Accept changing yourself to better yourself. Don't expect favors or breaks from anyone. Nobody owes you anything, nor will they give you anything. Don't demean yourself by asking for handouts. Your only value in the world is whatever use you are to others, and that's it. That's the hard, cold reality. People don't care about how special you think you are. Mind your own business. Don't be a busybody. Don't gossip. Don't bother much with other people's affairs, and that includes the tabloid shows on TV. You will sometimes think that life sucks. Just keep the big picture in mind. Don't ever get down on yourself, easier said than done. Get a good night's sleep. Deal with your problems and keep moving forward. No matter what calamities befall you, forget about them as fast as you can. Snap out of it and keep going. Be ready for failures, changes, and new beginnings all the time. You must see them as learning experiences. All your thoughts are information and energy. When you think, you set up a chain reaction by creating similar thoughts to the thoughts you're thinking. All thoughts are reduced to physiological reactions in the body. Your nervous system/immune system reacts to how you think. It is self-conscious, therefore your best bet is to have a natural, relaxed, positive flow of thoughts going through your brain. You can live a free life, but you have to do it within the system to some extent. Figure out a way to earn your money through your efforts rather than simply fighting the system just because you hate it. You are your memories. They're all right if they're positive. It's good to reminisce to help out with the positive flow, but if you have a negative past, try to forget it as much as possible to focus on the beauty in your soul. Finally, there are two sayings that I refer to because I find myself in the same traps over and over again. Don't make mountains out of molehills. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's amazing how even the toughest among us can let little things get to us. The greatest secret in life to succeed in the world is to work on your goals a little bit every day. The best way to be happy is to follow the natural inspired energy in your soul. You will get there sure and steady, but know when to quit. Pace yourself, you will make it sooner or later. Don't expect to achieve your goals overnight. Enlightenment 1. Enlightenment is not in personal elevation but in the ability to reach out, to offer compassion to a lost, desperate world and raise others' awareness. Siddhartha Buddha. The truth shall set you free. John 8:32. I exist as I am, that is enough. Whether I find myself today or in 10,000 years doesn't matter. I'm happy with who I am. The one who dies with the most spiritual consciousness, aka wisdom, wins. Everything in the world is transient, so don't be too attached to anything, even other people. Enlightenment is the ability to take part in the action of the world but be detached from the outcome. In a parable I read, a young man approached the old master and asked him for enlightenment. The old man instructed him to put a plastic bag over his head, whereupon he wrapped a rope around it and held it tight. The young man stayed like that for about a minute, thinking it was part of the process to find enlightenment, but then he started to get short on breath and choking, but the old man held tight until just before the guy passed out, then released the rope and took the bag off, the young guy angrily gasping for air to restore himself. When the young man asked him what did he do that for, the old guy said, when you want enlightenment as much as you want air, you will find it. This is why I probably stated at least a half a dozen times in this book that most of us live in comfortable complacency. We have no interest in enlightenment or finding our souls because we're content with our dull, rather easy, routine lives. It takes a tragedy, a crisis, or having your comfort level pulled out from underneath you somehow for a lot of people to wake up, get real and realize they only live once, so they'd better do some living if they don't want to waste this precious gift of their lives. Enlightenment is the awareness of how to live a great life for yourself, to figure things out and go in the direction of your soul to end up doing things that help keep you powerful and maybe help the world in some way. An enlightened life comes down to a constant process of exploring, growing, and enjoying yourself, seeking out transcendent adventures and experiences. Enlightenment is living without delusion, seeing the picture crystal clear, busting loose from your little self-centered fantasy world to see yourself as others see you the way you really are in the world and learn from this little mental experiment to better yourself. You should step back for a minute from your hasty judgments to see the people around you as they really are, not cool, tough, arrogant, self-centered people but normal fallible human beings with insecurities and fears just like you trying to get through life day by day. If you're friendly before being snobbish or mean, you will find that life goes a lot smoother and you make a lot more allies if not friends. Everybody around you has got some manner of a sad tale or problem they're working on. Don't judge people on first sight by their exteriors. Often they're just covers for insecurity and fear. Always be gentle and nice and the mood will most likely return itself to you. You reap what you sow, you get what you deserve. It generally works like this in life. Everybody eventually gets what they deserve in the way of peace and friendship, not necessarily in material things since anybody can make a fortune regardless of how good or evil they are, but the true test is really peace and kindred spirits to share your life with. Take an easy attitude with life. Don't go around with a tough expression on your face. Try to smile and look friendly. Most people around you aren't bad people, they're just wrapped up in their own little worlds. If you think people are hostile, you will get hostility back. If you assume they're friendly and act that way, you will make friends if you initiate and give them a chance. Everybody's just a fallible human being trying to get through life day by day, and the cold, impersonal nature of the world has alienated many of us, so you have to break the code by being a little friendlier than your typical person keeping to themselves out in public if you want to be out there sharing your life with other people. I try to live life as a journey, ultimately developing my soul towards some ethereal, intangible reason unknown even to me, except that I do because I must. I don't know exactly why, but it's the music inside, the song of my soul, and if God's up there, it's the divine spark He gave me to do what I was born for. This is all you got, to release that little bit of natural inspiration that you feel to somehow do something tangible and worthwhile for yourself and for the world. Once you attain one of your aesthetic visions, you simply go on to the next one that your subconscious mind spits out, or simply try to hold onto it like I try to hold onto staying young and inspired forever whilst enjoying the hedonistic pursuits of life. Think of life as a journey and not necessarily a goal, because goals come and go and you're still stuck in your mind. The Buddhists say you find enlightenment by suffering, analyzing your suffering and working up from there. This is the journey of life, the evolution of the self, the realization that you're moving towards those positive visions that come out of your subconscious mind, becoming the enlightened individual that you almost are but never will quite get to, but you're moving towards some place that may exist only in your mind, but that's alright because at least you're creating the perception that you're going there, which is better than a flat line. Regardless of what may happen to you in life, the worst tragedy or the greatest triumph, when all the smoke clears, it's still just you alone with your soul, and you have a choice every day to either honor it and get happiness out of the deal or ignore it and ultimately feel miserable. When I watch the documentaries on TV and see some of those old people in foreign countries, like the old Vietnamese guy or the chubby, old peasant woman, they seem so happy in their simple, peaceful lives, untouched and unspoiled by this entity we know as modernization and mass media. They have found rhythm in their lives in sync with nature and the rhythms of the seasons. They live happy lives accepting themselves as they are, but to many of us, such a life would be boring. They have found part of the equation to peace, longevity, and happiness, namely a peaceful life by themselves within themselves, devoid of all the superficial distractions a modern world can offer them, but, on the other hand, they haven't unlocked the secrets to totally fulfilled lives because they're not totally expending themselves. As a restless free spirit, I had to see everything, go there, do it, think it over for a bit, keep going and looking until I finally figured it out. I need to constantly seek out new ideas and viewpoints simply to satisfy my natural intrinsic thirst for new thoughts all the time. Then I have to create things both with my mind and body in order to reach those high levels of transcendent joy and satisfaction called inspiration. Qualitatively, I've reached a point of enlightenment where I know what life is, so everything but the few things I feel in my soul is all just minor amusement to me. It means almost nothing. All that stuff they want me to watch, listen to, read or buy from the pop culture realm is irrelevant in my life. I engage in a few minutes here and there for mild entertainment, but you'll never see me play a video game for longer than 2 minutes or watch a football game for longer than a minute, because all this stuff means nothing to the person I am in my soul. An enlightened life is an individual trying to live in a state of peace all the time, happy for honoring his or her efforts to be true to him or herself. Enlightenment is self-analysis on a daily basis, interspersed with periods of deeper analysis to find your soul and go with it. Socrates said, "Know thyself," and the bottom line purpose of all meaningful education is to create independent, critical, thoughtful, contemplative, introspective, autonomous receptacles of thought swayed by none, trusting only in their abilities to create their lives as they go along. It's all about how you feel within, tapped into your soul, getting the highs out of the deal and living the lows to the hill too when you get them, hence, living for the intensity of experience regardless of what it is. Go with the highs when they're happening and live the lows too, because they make you a complete and better person in the long run. It's savoring life in all its diversity. Enlightenment is simply a matter of having the sense to accept the deal that's dealt to you and living it. Enlightenment will not change your daily responsibilities to take care of yourself or your family, it will just make you that much more peaceful and joyful doing them. Once you reach a point where you know your soul and trust it, you're enlightened and simply live it the best that you can with what you got day by day. There is no one moment of enlightenment and that's it. It's pretty easy to find your soul, but the true test is to live it honorably day after day after day. Life is simply to have the courage to totally be yourself day after day, even when all the crap of the world forces most of us to bend, possibly break, and sing sad songs occasionally. In order to live a high quality of life, you have to work at it all the time. It won't come by itself. Life is an unpainted canvas, a work in progress, and will be until the day you die, unless you will it so that you simply stagnate, accept the generic fair and live dull. Enlightenment too. There ain't too much out there that's really all that deep. Life does not exist in a vacuum of either trying to make it big in the business world or becoming Buddhist-like in your simplicity and renunciation of all sense pleasures. It's always a mix. We're all a bundle of contradictions. Buddhist, altruistic types who claim to give up ego totally and live for the good of the world always fail, because every last one of us has a self-preservation, selfish gene which is totally alright to live for because it's your true nature. Nobody else is gonna live for you, and you can't be a torch to others until you first love yourself and do something worthy with it. At its core, lowest common denominator level, life is just material survival, and this comes down to a basic comfort level of a predictable routine and a material headspace, which leads to a counting game of how much you're up or down financially and worry about future outcomes, which waste a good many brain cells and kill a good many people due to stress. Granted, stay planted with respect to your practical needs, but don't give yourself over to these imposters in any significant way whatsoever. Living for materialism may make you comfortably numb, but it will never make you feel like a complete human being. The one true reality is that everyone's an individual walking their own unique path with the capacity to find their own enlightenment within themselves if they so desire. Ideals are fine for Saturday afternoon musings, but most people live in a basic materialistic mode and stay there no matter what, so all ideologies ultimately fail. The material realm brainwashes us into going for what we want materially, but ultimately you will never get what you really want, because you already got all you're ever gonna get out of this life, just you by your little lonesome when you go to bed at night and when you raise your head up off the pillow the next day. That's really it. No material things will ever change your headspace all that much. Beyond basic needs, the surroundings really don't matter all that much. You're always stuck in your head regardless of the changing kaleidoscope around you. It's called stream of consciousness, free flow of thoughts, potential, theater of the mind, and it's all you really got and all you're ever gonna get out of this life. Beyond the theater in my own mind, there are other worlds out there that I use to give me stimulation, like off-center, intellectually stimulating viewpoints that you might find on late-night talk radio, shortwave radio, and the internet. Life is abundant. There are many things out there beyond the limited mainstream view of our Western society, namely the talents, interests, and abilities you have within yourself. Anybody can have a momentary flash of greatness and win a gold medal or do something incredible, but the true test is to be true to yourself day after day with the mundanity of time and the indifference of all the indifferent souls around you. Mastery of anything requires constant vigilance. I've seen plenty of virtuosos, particularly in the athletic realm, fall by the wayside after as little as 1 week of inertia. The lesson is constant vigilance to your craft day after day after day. If you're a master and slack off, ultimately you start to lose yourself and feel miserable. The real clincher is that we take this concept of enlightenment way too hard. We chase all kinds of illusions and dreams and fill ourselves with all kinds of self-important sounding stuff, but what really matters much beyond living a simple, peaceful life pursuing your soul with someone you can love? Granted, sometimes people get lost, weak and confused and need a kick in the butt to jumpstart them again, but the best anyone should ever strive to do is to inspire you. You don't need a rule book because none exists. You're an individual walking your own unique path in life. Nobody can presume to know the real inner you, much less try to give you advice, therefore trust only yourself. You have all the tools within yourself to take care of yourself should you so desire. Don't give your power over to any so-called expert or counselor, because nobody knows anything more about your life than you do, and nobody ever will, no matter what, and I'm referring to every field of endeavor in life. Abe Lincoln valued the virtues of self-education, and that's what I live by. I observe virtually all of us settle for life as a day-to-day drag of time. If you want value out of your life, don't fall for this cute little trap that society has boxed us into. Even if everyone around you is living in this day-to-day routine, if you want quality, you gotta make it an adventure in your own mind. If you want purpose, you gotta stand for something, and you gotta do it now. When my father died, I contemplated life for a while to realize that time is finite, that I only have so many years to honor his memory and do something worthy with my life. The most valuable commodity you have is time. Time waits for no one. The mind game of your life. Live without discipline, die without dignity. As a man thinks within himself, so he is. Proverbs 23:7. Be not controlled by the world, but be transformed by the power of your mind. Romans 12:2. John Milton, the English poet, wrote in Paradise Lost, "The mind is its own place, in it, you can create a heaven or a hell." That's it right there. Your entire reality is in between your ears. Life is time and exists in the moment, and your attitude determines how your life will be, both psychologically and physically, since what you think affects how your organic brain releases hormones and treats your body. We create our own biochemistry either through action or moping. Your mind can keep you well or make you miserable regardless of the circumstances that are surrounding you. All battles are won or lost in your mind. The world keeps going on whether you're a part of it or not. You have to decide to become a part of it, then always keep in mind that you're in control. Absolutely everything you do or don't do is a conscious act, a product of your mind. You control your own destiny. Not too much in life comes easily, but if you use your intelligence to devise a feasible, intelligent plan, then work hard at it, you can't miss, even if it takes 10, 20, or 25 years. Many of the winners in life went through many lean years of hard work and uncertainty before they made it. That's the normal price of the American dream. Much of the world is decrepit and hopeless. With my modest middle-class lifestyle, I have more things than many people, but more importantly, I have health and natural inspired energy which many people don't have, and because they're so apathetic and tired, they simply live to survive and get a cheap thrill any way they can. We in industrialized nations are the luckiest people on the planet because we have the freedom to do what we want, but perhaps more importantly, We have the options to do what we want if we're willing to work at it. Many people in other countries do not have the freedom, the facilities, the means, or the infrastructure to pursue things they really want both in the work and the recreational sectors. You can't get internet access in most of the world. The average dwelling in Russia is a small, cramped apartment shared by several people. Hardly anyone has the luxury of their own private bedroom. I saw a show about South Africa where most of the houses on the fringes were one-room shacks without electricity or indoor plumbing. We expect to have our own rooms. In other countries, families sleep together in the same room. If you want to see poverty in a democracy, go to India where a guy with a pair of pliers at the local outdoor market is the dentist. In your own town where you live, there are homeless, hungry, and poor people and many more dejected and rejected about life. The world is a cesspool full of many, lost broken souls with absolutely no direction and no will as to how to proceed in life. If you ever want a lesson in humility and want to thank your lucky stars, just go to jail for a few days. It will make you see your life crystal clear and all other problems will fade in comparison. I can't imagine those guys doing years at a time, some of them innocent. It's tough. And think of all those people with disabilities and medical conditions. You really ain't got no problems. It reminds me of a show I saw about the war in Afghanistan and how the natives were bombing the crap out of Russian helicopters with their American-made Stinger rocket launchers. I will never forget the Russian pilot when he got on that transport to pull out of there after the truce. He breathed a heavy sigh of relief and said to himself, RNR, rest and relaxation, for the rest of my life, meaning after that hell, nothing else would come close anymore, everything would be easy. The big secret is to plan for the long term but live in the moment by taking baby steps for those long-term goals every day. The way to tackle a mountain is one step at a time. Take some action every day, then at night, meditate/do a reflectional review of the day's events, then set your goal for the next day and do it. If you do this and program yourself the night before, getting out of bed to face the day when you wake up should not only be a breeze but sometimes, you should be so full of vinegar that you even wake up earlier to get on with the day. Real winners do this and it works. They're happy in their work because they feel like they're going somewhere. I go through my paces most of the time, but at least part of the day is relegated to sensual pleasures. You gotta enjoy your life no matter what. A disciplined mind sets the winner apart from everybody else. Not only will a disciplined mind make you a winner, it will also keep you healthy and wise. Everything is about gray matter. It's the greatest power we have, but you have to do it wisely and rationally. To me, it's all about control, the extent to which I control my own life and pursue my own destiny. Reap what you sow. Activity breeds activity, inspiration breeds more inspiration, desperation breeds more desperation, nothingness breeds more nothingness. You are what you eat. You are what you think. Waste your mind on stupid TV shows, stupid magazines, stupid people, and you will be an idiot like them. Don't be a slave to your emotions. Be a rock, make all decisions on logic. Your mind is the engine that determines everything that happens to you that's within your control. Be your own cheerleader, be positive. Massive information overload. If it makes you feel strong, invigorated and proud of yourself, that's the pure you. There's a massive information overload in our society. 100 years ago, people didn't have all this mass media stuff saturating their lives. I presume the purpose of life is the pursuit of peace and happiness. There was a story about some natives in an Asian country somewhere around Bhutan or Nepal who were relatively happy living simple lives, but then when mass media came in the form of cable TV, these people started feeling deficient about themselves. They thought they were missing out on something, so they became materialistic pop culture capitalists and the crime rate shot up. There's a TV commercial where a woman sings the praises of getting a discount on her kitchen tiles and how she now enjoys her kitchen, and I'm thinking how meaningless life must be when it's reduced to feeling joy at getting a kitchen makeover, when millions of families live in one-room shacks and don't even have a kitchen except for a hole in the floor for cooking food. This is why I think that exposing yourself a lot to other people's ideas and thoughts pollutes you spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, which is why I try to stay away from it all to stay pure within myself and live for my own definitions of originality, happiness and inspiration. Some is good for intellectual stimulation, practical knowledge, and entertainment, but there's a point where it impedes your development as an individual by taking you over. This is when it's time to cut back. Listen to yourself for a while away from all this stuff. Most people have no idea they have an inherent standard they were born with that they should or must follow if they're to drink from the cup of the full, free-spirited life, because they're brainwashed to follow the standards of success and happiness from the outside world rather than following who they really are in their true natures. If you don't know who you are or what you were born to do but instead follow the standards of the world and feel pretty good because you're reasonably successful out there, the act of not living by your true nature still affects you in your global essence called your soul. You will always feel a gnawing sense of emptiness regardless of what success the world may give you unless and until you align yourself with your true nature and live by it. Most people do not know that the process of releasing your natural energy in the three facets I've defined, inspired, aesthetic, hedonistic, loving, is the key to keeping a strong hold of your true identity, therefore helping you feel good about yourself virtually all the time. This is the key to a great life. There's no other way to feel good to great about your life all the time. Everything else is a fake job. It's the only way to get a solid good feeling about yourself. Money, fame, or love can't do it. They will give you an initial tingle but will fade into emptiness with all the minutes of the day after a few days. The more you do not release your natural energy and either do other things that are not inherent to you, like work a dull job or sit around watching TV, the further away you will get from your archetype, which means the more you will lose yourself and the more miserable you will feel. Align your true nature with your means to earn a living and you win the game of life. True freedom is to choose your path freely, because the truth is that even in a free society most of us are massively brainwashed by the system's agenda and give our lives over to these false gods or idols, often without even realizing it. Things like pop culture, entertainment, capitalism, religion, patriotism, formal education, the traditional work ethic, professional sports, the mass media, etc. Even monogamy is cultural brainwash, because most of us automatically assume this is the key to happiness without exploring who we really are away from the system's conventions and trying other things. All men are depraved sluts, at least in the privacy of their minds. They can't help it. It's hormones. Testosterone makes us all with normal levels of it permanently horny. Who really are you? Are you some powerless guy or gal who works some average job somewhere, who looks to the media to fill you up with some illusion of control and coolness, like the morning shock jocks, the sports talking heads and late-night TV talk show hosts, pretending that it's cool for men to stay stuck in an adolescent mindset, and for the women, pretending that if you color your hair, you will feel more glamorous and beautiful because some so-called celebrity chick tells you you're worth it in some cheesy TV commercial. There's a big rift between the powerless and the powerful people in our society, and I'm not talking powerful according to society's definition of power. Even the people with so-called power are still generic clones if they're playing the game of life within the system. I'm talking power in terms of being free and enlightened, having the guts to step outside of the box enough to pursue who you really are the way you were born, with all the originality, beauty, grace, aesthetics, freedom and inspiration you have buried somewhere inside of you. How much do you follow your true nature in the face of the massive forces of pop culture, capitalist marketing constantly bombarding you with messages on how to be a good, little consumer clone, buying into all that crap to fill you up because you don't have the inspiration nor the intelligence to know it's your right alone in your head, just like it is for everybody else in their heads. Nobody can know what's good for you better than you know yourself, so screw 'em all. Live your own life by what you feel, and if somebody doesn't like it, if you're not hurting them, who cares? You ultimately exist for your own benefit, not to conform to the standards of the world or to please other people because they have some kind of paternalistic or authoritative power over you, like a little kid blindly following adults even when they abuse him. You can help people if you want and do great things to help humanity, but if it's as a clone within the system, it's ultimately meaningless next to tapping into the pure, natural force that comes from within you because it's generic or expendable. I get no joy out of being a great conformist regardless of how big the payoff is. I don't particularly care to be successful at any career because that's playing somebody else's game, not my own purely and freely. I suppose you could be a creative teacher and do your own thing, but you're still on somebody else's schedule, and at the end of the day, you're just another generic, expendable teacher, not exactly living an original, inspired life for yourself. I want to live creatively and originally from my own store of energy that I was born with. It's the only thing that gives me worth. I want to blaze my own path, not just follow some path somebody has already walked. Nothing comes close to riding the natural pulse of my life with some manner of intensity, joy, and gusto. I live to feel that light, free feeling, and run with it for the rest of my life. Everything else is minor or meaningless next to this. This is the great chasm of differences between enlightened free spirits and generic people who have been handily brainwashed by the system. It seems to be a sin if you resolve to live for your own pleasure, a big part of which is to expunge your natural inspired energy, which could be positive for the world, but on the other side is the pursuit of the gratification of one's own ID, that carnal side that lives in us all, which is very, very politically incorrect because nobody ever talks about it in the mass media head on. They just try to entice you with it through advertising images, implying you can get a bit of it according to society's definition, but not too much. It's there inside of everyone somewhere because it's inherent, at least the sex part. We are primal beings ruled by our hormones to a large extent. The question is, how much are you willing to explore it and live by it day by day versus how much do you repress it in order to be a safe, productive citizen the way your society wants you to be? Why do people with loads of money still go off to work every day? I think it's because they feel they need a regular work ethic and a sense of community more so than to have the guts, the inspiration, and the energy to explore the worlds that live inside of them. If I was loaded with money, it would be no problem for me to constantly go on the way I'm living now, only I'd do it with more gusto because of the extra stuff the money could buy me. I think the sex, drugs, rock and roll ideology is great. I can live it within my means without going over the edge. Anyone who downs it obviously has not lived it. It's easy. I dedicate 80% of my day to release positive, inspired energy. After that, if I want to do something for my own pleasure, I do it freely with no qualms about it. Think about it. All you own is that inner feeling that is you. Once you got your basic material needs met, the two most important things beyond that are 1. Living by the pure you. Identifying what your pure essence is, then keeping it strong over a lifetime. 2. Being kind and good to your lovers, relatives, friends, acquaintances, and strangers in order to get that dose of love and community most of us crave to some extent. Everything beyond this is either meaningless or a delusion from the world. You can go out and help the world if you want, but let's be real for a second. Most of us are self-centered, selfish people who live in our own little worlds, in our own little comfort zones, despite any illusions we might have about being kind, loving, idealistic people trying to save the world. If we were as good as we like to think we are, we would have solved all the world's problems by now. Look into the mirror of your soul. Who is the real you away from everything you've ever been brought up to believe in, away from your image out in the world, the way you want other people to see you when you put your social mask on as you go out the door? Who are you away from your job title, your position at work, all the awards, trophies, and status the world has conferred upon you? Who are you away from your car, house, and the clothes you wear? Who is the pure you the way you were born? What is that blueprint, divine inspiration, and/or genetic seed you were endowed with? After all the living I've done, after watching all kinds of people live their lives, after watching all the pretenses and delusions of the world, I've finally come to realize that the only way to really live a great life is to run with it in a bohemian-inspired aesthetic mix, always savoring in the sensations of the moment, living for the transient experiences that make up our lives. The thing is that I rarely stop during the day. Idle hands lead to uninspiration, misery, addictions and trouble. Every day is an unpainted canvas that I try to paint with some manner of gusto and intensity. Even on my slowest day, I still get it up to release some of my natural energy with some manner of aesthetics and urgency. I continuously want to maximize my journey of the human experience until life ends for me in this domain. Inspiration is the engine of the soul, followed by an appreciation for one's life with reverence as a divine gift from the gods. The problem is that most souls are either weak, brainwashed or uninspired. Very few people live out all the minutes of the day doing exactly what they want to do with some manner of intensity, joy, and gusto. It seems like too much effort for some, or they're brainwashed to go along with the system's ideas of happiness and success without endeavoring to discover what they really want to do with this finite block of time, otherwise known as their lives. The people who win the game of life are the ones who figure out how to stay inspired day after day, interspersed with periods of very high inspiration when their senses are transcendent, euphorically much higher than the generic mundanity of the normal human condition. I'm talking about riding this feeling forever. It is possible, yet only a few people ever achieve it or become wise enough to know how to do it and run for the glory of life itself. Romantic love can't compete because it's a sensation you get in spurts and squirts here and there. Inspiration is a way of being in your head. It's either there inside of you in continuous blocks of time or it isn't. When you have it and you're riding it, that's almost as good as life gets. That's as good as it gets on a continuous basis, days or weeks at a time, but a few other things are qualitatively higher in a transient sense, like deep love, sex, and the use of certain mind-altering substances. That's about it for me. I found the few things that turn my crank that I do regardless of what the world says about them or whether it rewards me for doing them or not. I really don't care much about anything else. All that stuff everybody does for entertainment and fun, all the way from going to movies to buying ATVs to drive around in the woods, mean nothing to me. I see it all as minor capitalist, pop culture crap. Your own intuitive, inner standard. I went out into the world to see and experience everything I could find, and when all was said and done, I completed my hero's journey to come back to me and my own inner standard of who I am in my soul and how I should live my life. I know this standard inside of me that I interchangeably call my soul, my subconscious mind, my essence, my purity, the blueprint the gods endowed me with, my intuition, my archetypes, etc. But the thing is that most people do not know they have an inherent standard they were born with. They simply follow the standards of the world. It took me about 28 years before I finally discovered that I had been playing the game of the world, which covered over my real self, this natural standard that lived inside me. If I didn't follow it, I would have ended up living a compromised life based on my fear of economic uncertainty, like a lot of people do, take on a safe job they don't particularly like that doesn't exactly set them on fire for loving their lives, but they do it anyway because it's safe, rather than having the guts to go for what they really feel regardless of the price tag, come hell or high water, like they say. For the truly free and enlightened, life is a great adventure, not some timid, packaged, spoon-fed experience. Know exactly who you are and go with it, rather than take on some caricature or image the system spoon-fed you with that you think is kinda cool, safe and steady, so you follow it like some generic clone. My life is simple. Every morning when I wake up, I answer to this intuitive standard inside of me. I start releasing energy to honor it, and after a number of hours depending on the day, I've released enough to feel good to great about my life. Nobody on the planet can surpass me in being true to myself the way I was born, unless they're Spartans who aren't really enjoying their lives. Other enlightened, free people can match me because we're all alike, doing the exact same thing for our particular ride of life. We're being true to ourselves, enjoying the journey, riding it for the fun, the exertion, and the sensations of it. After I've honored myself, I have earned the right within myself to do whatever else I want, either walk on the sensual, carnal, or romantic side of life for a while, or to simply keep on with my inspired, productive pursuits. I can't think of a better way for any human being to live. Nothing the world offers me can compete with this type of lifestyle. If somebody offered me a fun day at Disneyland, the world's greatest amusement park, or gave me tickets to go to one of the world's so-called great events like the Academy Awards or the Olympic Games, I could care less. I wouldn't want to waste my time going to these places and events because they mean nothing to me, nor can they do anything to make me feel good about myself in a deep way because they're passive. I would rather do something with my own power than be a spectator of anything. I'm not a passive spectator consumer like homie wants me to be. Get me hooked on what the business infrastructure defines as cool, fun, pop culture entertainment so I can be a good little pacified clone, buying into that stuff, wasting my life watching silly movies, playing silly computer games, following professional sports, eating junk food. There's nothing original or inspired about this, yet millions of people fall for it. It proves my point. How many people are sincerely interested in the original, inspired pursuit of their lives over buying into all the mass media marketing hype? I pretty well tried most of the stuff out there that they parade at us as being cool, fun stuff, and I didn't get it. They were all just meaningless, transient, pop culture, capitalist experiences to me. I'd rather be doing exactly what I want to do, playing my game of life that originates from a force deep within myself. This is the difference between an enlightened free spirit and the generic mass of humanity. Where do you fit in between these two extremes? Is your life enough fun for you such that there's almost nothing else you'd rather be doing, or are you one of those people always looking for something outside of yourself to fill you up, entertain you, and occupy your time? It's much easier to take the path of least resistance, take on some job or career. It doesn't matter much what it is or if you like it or not, as long as you make enough money to pay the bills, buy some good food, some beer, and a big, flat-screen TV with direct satellite service. That's big-time living, capitalist, pop culture style. This is exactly where the forces that run the capitalist infrastructure want people to be, because then they got 'em right where they want them. They're good, working stiff, consumer clones hooked on the stuff they're selling them and advertising as the path to success, bliss, and happiness. It seems so simple that you should follow who you really are away from the brainwash of the world, but most people don't do this, even though they might think they do, because they choose monogamous marriage over some other option, choose a career among the ones offered rather than trying to figure what they should do to earn a living, even if it's outside the box of convention. Then there's everything else, the movies at the theater, the shows on TV, the mainstream news, religion, etc. These are all ideas that come from beyond you. An enlightened free spirit wipes the slate clean, starts with just him or herself purely without delusions or brainwash from the world, and builds a life based on what they feel in their souls. Life for enlightened, free people is a constant release of their natural spirits. Everything else is dull or meaningless to someone like me. I was born with a certain blueprint for my life imprinted on my soul. That's who I am, and that's it for me. A free spirit lives by his or her spirit. They do what they feel from within as purely as possible. We know we have to earn a living out in the world, but our idea of success in life is doing what you want, not following some standard out there like how much money you have beyond what you need or how much of a big shot you think you are somewhere. An original is a person interested in their own lives as individuals enough to question the way of life they're brought up to believe in, so that they can discover who they really are away from cultural indoctrination, pop culture entertainment, and the ideology of consumerism. How many people discover who they are in their pure souls, then go off trying to be who they were really born to be away from what they were brainwashed by? How many people discover that inspiration and aesthetics are the keys to life and ride them both to stay feeling good to great most of the time for the rest of their lives? Types of people. I loosely categorize most people I come across as either one or a meld of the following. Pop culture clone, has a naive, limited mindset attained from watching all the entertainment stuff on TV, in movies, and reading silly magazines. Wants to imitate the pop culture celebrities to be seen as cool and trendy. Capitalist clone, wants to be a big-time business success. Career ambition clone, wants to get to the top of the corporate ladder. Materialistic clone, thinks happiness comes from acquiring consumer goods. Home decor / home improvement clone, wastes endless time working on the house when the house is just a functional place to hang your head. Everything you're surrounded by is meaningless next to a constant active movement of life. Social class/status clone, wants to be perceived by others as an elite, special, very important person/VIP. Patriotic clone, exaggerated love of country since all countries are artificial political entities. We are all citizens of planet Earth. Political clone, people who play the game of mainstream politics and think there's a great qualitative chasm of ideological difference between the Republicans and the Democrats when the truth is that they are two sides of the same coin. Together they control all the power and don't want other political parties to get in on the action to disrupt their cute little oligarchy. What about the Libertarians and the Green Party? Intellectual/formal education clone, people who think that their extent of formal education or general knowledge of current events equates to wisdom or intellectual superiority when the truth is that wisdom requires no formal schooling. It comes from discovering the voice in your soul. Religious/philosophical/self-help psychobabble clone, people who subvert their free thoughts by subscribing to one ideology or another, i.e. the latest trendy one, Kabbalah. Whatever happened to standing on your own as your God created you? Vanity clone, people obsessed with physical look, buying into all the cosmetics commercials they see, wearing fashionable clothing, eternally obsessed with losing weight, getting cosmetic surgery, exercising and tanning at the tanning salon. To my way of thinking, unless I plan to have sex with you or marry you, I don't care what you look like if there is a meeting of our minds. Besides, the truth is that most people don't give a damn about what you look like because they're too busy thinking about what they look like. Free individual, an individual who believes only in what comes from his or her soul. If there is a God, He created the most divine part of you, your essence otherwise known as your soul, so by following it, you honor Him and do the right thing, follow this divine presence within you which is your true nature.